Welcome to Disruptive Successor, a show for next generation leaders in family businesses and entrepreneurs who want to disrupt the status quo and take their existing business to a whole new level. We all know that what got us here isn't going to get us there. This show will provide inspiration, advice, and resources to help you create massive impact. This podcast is sponsored by myself, Jonathan Goldhill, and my company, the Goldhill Group, where we provide coaching for growing companies. I'm Jonathan Goldhill, and my purpose is simple: to guide entrepreneurial leaders in family businesses towards more freedom and fulfillment. I want entrepreneurs to get clarity around the changes that will make them and their businesses more successful so they can experience the same freedom I've enjoyed in my life. Our proven practices challenge business owners to think differently about their business and how they're running it, and quite literally become game changers in our clients' companies. Learn more at thegoldhillgroup.com website, where you can schedule your free strategy session. Hi, it's Jonathan Goldhill, and welcome back to another episode of the Disruptive Successor Show. Today, I have a guest who's a seasoned expert at the dynamic intersection of sports and business. Jay Dixon bolsters an impressive track record as an entrepreneur, having founded 3 successful companies and actively participated in the sale of over 50 businesses of varying sizes. Jay's expertise ranges from supporting research initiatives to providing strategic guidance for business owners. In Jay's most recent endeavor, he established successcoach.com, an elite accelerator tailored for athletes who've left their playing days behind. In the program, Jay seamlessly combines mindset strategies utilized by elite CEOs with a practical playbook to facilitate a smooth transition of athletic talents into prosperous business ventures. Offering practical strategies outlined in Jay's book, After the Game, to help athletes transition into the business world after their playing days, addressing the challenges of identity and purpose that they often face. What an interesting topic, Jay. Thanks for joining me on the show today.
Thanks, Jonathan, and thanks for that warm intro. Really appreciate it. Glad to be here.
And by the way, what an interesting backdrop, folks. That is not actually a fake photo. That is Jay taking his quarterly vacation in the Virgin Islands and doing his own version of Bill Gates's Think Week, I guess. So
You're right. I like to say a lot of folks think the ultimate flex is wealth, but I think the ultimate flex is health. So I like to get away and focus on my health, but I still get some work done. And in the Virgin Islands here, headed back to New York Thursday.
Yeah. Well, and we're going to get into health because that's where I started as a business guy. My dad passed away at 35 of a massive coronary, his second one. And my entire life from an early age up until even today has always been health-centric and focused. Not crazy, but health-centric focused. And you as an athlete, health, I know, is one of the mindsets that all athletes must have. I remember my days as kind of a long distance cyclist back before Lance Armstrong got outed for all of his, whatever, let's call them misdemeanors. But the things that he did that were not so right in the sport, but he was absolutely fanatical about what he put into his body. And health is one of the success mindsets, is it not?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What you put in your body, what you let your mind think, right? Controlling your mind, and the way you balance life, right? And so 100%, you can't be successful in any aspect of life if your health isn't taken care of first. So, you and I can connect on that. And I apologize here about your dad, but I applaud you for championing that mission and making it that voice heard. So,
and that's why guys like us are maybe more lifestyle entrepreneurs, or that's kind of how I think of myself, is I put my lifestyle first. And so I just came back from 2 weeks in the Caribbean, being able to live and work and do we're lucky and we're grateful, I'm sure, for being able to work remotely in beautiful locations and get in either a swim or a ski or something that, that floats our boat. But look, I want to get into talking about your book, but before, I want to get a little bit of your backstory. You have a really interesting backstory as an athlete turned entrepreneur. So tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, thank you. So my journey started as an athlete, really, at 7 years old when I put on a football helmet, and that became who I was, and I fell in love with the game, fell in love with my coaches, and really everything about it. Every August, I couldn't wait to suit up again and play through Thanksgiving, right? And that was kind of the schedule there, and it became a rhythm of life. And I set a goal to play Division I football on a scholarship, and sooner or later, I achieved that goal. I played football at the University of Nevada for Hall of Fame coach Chris Alt. We had some wonderful teams there. And that was where my journey ended, and where that athletic journey ended, and where this journey began, 15, 16 years later, where I was able to put this book together. Because when that athletic journey ended, I'll tell you what, Jonathan, it was an interesting time. And I know, there's athletes out there talking about it, and I can talk about it too. It was lost, confusion. Who am I? Where do I go? What do I do? And I tried the corporate route, and I never could fill that void. And so that's what sparked me to start a company with some great people around me. I just had some incredible people around with that support, and so that's where that entrepreneurial journey began. And it was really trying to fill that void that I had lost since athletics. So it was just bouncing around. Corporate world didn't fill it. I tried a little bit of everything. I went back, I coached a little high school football. I got the corporate job. I thought I tried a little bit of everything, and nothing was filling that void. But the entrepreneurship route, for me, once I went through the start, grow, and sale, which I'm going to say is the season, or that's your journey, when you can view it like that. And I looked back on that at a young age. I thought, wow, that was exhilarating, right? That became the new game. And for a guy like me, or a person like me, the way I think, I always wanted to find the game of business, and corporate world wasn't teaching me that. Everything I was out there wasn't teaching me that. But the sale of a business, I thought, okay, here's the game, and I found it.
And so what I read in your book, and I haven't read the entire book, but I caught wind of the fact that you had some very early success selling a business that you built, and before you even thought it was sellable, someone approached you to sell it. I didn't get a sense of what the time frame was that was, but I imagine it was somewhat short in most business worlds, businesses' life cycles. And that's what got you the bug of, wow, I could build, exit, sell, build, exit, sell. Just like that was really interesting.
It was a short, and great people. Again, I was fortunate to have some great people around me, right? And it was a short time. I didn't know you could sell a business, Jonathan. I was every sense of the word one of those football jocks, right?
Right.
I didn't know, big meathead, but I had these other skills. And so when that business sold, I was very fortunate because that gentleman that bought it also developed a great relationship and taught me a ton. Mm-hmm. And in fact, he partnered on a real estate company right after that, which we sold again to a strategic buyer. So I learned a lot through someone who had come into my life and bought the business. I didn't know you could do this, and it just happened, right? And so that's been that journey there, and I was fortunate to come across that gentleman who had bought the business.
So you wrote the book after the game. What inspired you to write the book, and what message or solution are you hoping to convey to former athletes through this book? And I just want to kind of pause while you think about the answer to that question. I'm sure you know it already, but we've all probably run into athletes, and we've all heard stories over the years. As someone who was always interested in athletes, those who really ran into trouble with the law or with drugs, or I saw I used to share an office with a guy from USC who was a big time football player, Anthony Davis. And I watched him with his real estate adventures. And I saw the challenges, I think, up close, the struggles that some of these athletes have when they don't really have a direction
Mhm.
after their sports success. Um, I imagine it's a challenge that's amplified. Many people deal with this. So, but tell us, so what inspired you to write the book, and what are you hoping
Yeah. Yeah.
to accomplish?
Just that, Jonathan. When my football career ended, I've been talking about this internally and with people close to me a long time. Hey, that was so hard, right? It took its toll on my family, my relationships. I was one of those that went through a really tough time for a few years after sports. And so I've had this thought process for a long time of how do I give back to my tribe of people, right? And how do I help them? But I never had a tool. I never had a tool. And and now I have a tool to help people. And so what really sparked it was that it was such a painful time, but pain equals growth. Um, and that's where it all began. And so what was really, you hit on it earlier, what was really vindicating, and I'm sad to say it because it's something I want to solve and help with, is I went through 132 studies and interviewed a lot of former athletes. And we found that 90% of these, a little over 90% of these folks suffer from this identity gap post sports, right? So
Mm.
college plus hit this. And for me, as I'm going through this book and working all this, I'm wow, this is vindicating, right? So I'm reflecting on myself 15 years ago, kind of talking to myself back then, like, hey, you're going to be all right, buddy. A lot of people are going through this. And so all these signs are coming to me like, holy cow, we've got a problem. However, we can look at the neuroscience of what athletics teaches you, and we can tailor that directly to business outcome.
Mm.
There's a lot of studies out
Sure.
there that discuss 90% of business outcome is built on what we call the soft skills, 10% are technical. A lot of studies out there, anyone can Google it, right? So let's take a really scientific approach. And I was able to unlock that actually athletic training is one of the best breeding grounds for elite entrepreneurs and CEOs. You got to transition that the right way. Um, and so, in doing that, I wanted to bring awareness to a community, bring it out there and say, look, we've got this problem. We've got, these people that are falling apart and they've got all this untapped potential. And now, with my tools and some of the things through my journey, like you said, I was able to sit in between a lot of business deals, buying and selling companies and doing all that. And I found the key to these small companies, 50 to 250 employees, was that CEO. So as we're going through the largest wealth transfer in history, all these small businesses are looking for new owners. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, we've got a problem. We've got untapped potential. We've got the largest wealth transfer in history. My background fits all of that. I know exactly how to position, buy, and operate these companies and put these people in successful positions. And I can teach them those technical skills. You can teach them that. So in putting all this together, that was it. And rather than starting a company, I'm saying, hey, go take an operating one. Because my whole thing is, I want you to shrink this identity gap.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to get in a successful position, right? So it's called Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition. And that's what I do. But it really starts with the mind. And that's what we take them through a mindset and all that stuff in the book. But back to your question, what sparked it? The pain and my journey. And so 3.5, 4 years ago, I was able to really put the pen to the paper and work with some people on this and get this out there. And it's coming out soon.
Fantastic. In the book, you talk about, I think, some of the mindset that goes with an athlete, the training, or at least it's inferred in the early pages, and that same kind of training or discipline can be applied to business. And then you talk a little bit about people that come out of the military, and it similarly trains you with a certain rigor and accountability and discipline. Now, the athlete might maybe take more adventurous choices, and the military guy maybe more conservative choices. I do remember years ago running into an entrepreneur who was a West Point cadet, who a few years later went on to win either the first or second season of The Apprentice with Donald Trump. And it was quite impressive. And I thought, wow, that's when I woke up to thinking like, wow, military people can make great entrepreneurs. Um, and I probably a lot of them, we hear about a lot of them that don't make it out of the military very successfully. They struggle from PTSD. Um, could you talk a little bit more about some of the struggles that athletes go through and frame that up maybe with some of the mindset things that you're teaching them?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that's unique about athletics, especially in all the studies and what I went through and the people I interviewed, is that is an identity that you form that you begin to form in your formative years, right? So rather than CEOs when they get removed or they're not a CEO anymore, they suffer a little bit of that gap, right? Who am I? What do I do? I'm not a CEO anymore. However, that's an identity they formed in those mature years, right? So we're taking these folks. For me, I'm going to talk about me, 7 years old to 24 years old. Those are pretty formative years, right? To form your identity. Who am I? What am I about? What are my values, ethics, morals? And that athlete identity becomes really close to you. And when that's taken away, it's taken away, right? It ends for everyone.
Right,
We know it.
right,
And it's a painful time. So it's on the barometer of how bad is that identity gap, right? So for some people, it's, oh, my best days are behind me, and they can transition, they go off and they do great things. And there's some of those people out there. For others on the other end of the spectrum, it's depression, anxiety, and some pretty ugly, some pretty bad stuff that I can understand and feel and empathize with. So that's that pain and that's that struggle, and it's all data backed. It's in the book, and that's that's the downfall. However, as you mentioned, like with military CEOs, they tend to make more conservative decisions, things like that, and studying these early years of what makes a great CEO is big business. Private equity investors, they want to know. But sparse has been done on the athletic education. And so I dove into that into the book, and we found that, athletes, pretty darn good business owners and CEOs through that. So we've got this problem, this pain, and all this, untapped potential that we got to get to. So.
And just to go off on the research question a little bit further, whether this is through anecdotal, experience or actually data, some athletes are involved in athletic pursuits that involve a lot of teamwork, football, basketball, even cycling, to name a few. Some, though, athletes are, strictly an individual pursuit. So have you found any data that talks about the differences between the different types of athletic journeys that they're coming from? I mean, right.
Yeah.
I don't even know some of the individual stuff, but I mean, I can imagine there's so many, they don't learn teamwork. They don't learn leadership because that's not what their athletic, experience was all about.
Yeah. That's a great point. The one piece I can point to is actually in the startup game, right? So when you take a former athlete versus a non-former athlete 1v1 in a startup, there's no change in the data. And this is a small study I went through. However, when you take two non-athletes versus two former athletes, the two former athletes in a startup are nearly twice as successful, which is an interesting idea. Now, when it comes to individual sports versus team sports, I can't speak to that confidently. What I can tell you, though, is the coach is consistent, the coaching, those mechanisms, the seasonality, the resiliency, and the drive to get there is still there. So we're driving some other forces, and perhaps teamwork may lack in there, but I can't speak to that confidently. Some of those other stats I can hit on for you, but absolutely, small business is teamwork. Small business is teamwork. So, I would say those translate. Yeah.
What about coachability? Now, clearly, you admired your coaches. You worked with you played under one of the, great coaches in the football world. What if you're not coachable? I mean, think about some of your teammates that you went to school with, maybe that didn't seem all that coachable. Maybe they didn't even, maybe the coach kicked them off the team early on. I mean, those people probably really struggled in the business world, in the corporate world, in the world in general.
Oh, 100%. 100%. You know, you got to have some humility and you got to be coachable. And it doesn't matter who you are, how big or bad you are. There's always someone else out there bigger and badder than you. And I've found actually that the most elite entrepreneurs and CEOs are the most humble.
Mm-hmm.
They actually their team, you know, they rise their team up around them. They take feedback from their team around them, right? And
Sure.
that's what I found. That's what I found in these great entrepreneurs and CEOs was they were coachable by the people they employed, right? And so that's important, you know. And then you're getting into startups and buying businesses and doing all that. You've also got this little egg over here called investors, right? And there's some great investors out there that are strategic and they want to coach you too because they're in the game with you. You better be receptive. And coachability is a big deal.
You wonder how much what the data would, if they did some longitudinal studies, that would be like long-term studies of people who were great athletes, maybe not so great athletes. And I mean, this is just a rhetorical question, but like if they looked at their path and journey 10, 20, 30 years later. We all know about the Magic Johnsons, and I'm sure Tom Brady is going to go on to have like a successful career. We see the guys who went from being a sports figure to a movie figure to like a commentator or whatever. I mean, but we don't hear about the guys who just were B players, or they didn't have that kind of outstanding success. And it'd be interesting to see the data if they do develop it. I imagine that it's something that someone wants to look at.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories, which I encourage everyone to dive into, is the owner of the Phoenix Suns and Mercury, Matt Ishbia. Matt Ishbia didn't play much at Michigan State. He was on national championship teams, right? Mateen Cleaves went to the NBA. Matt Ishbia observed, watched, worked, showed up, was coachable. You know what that Matt Ishbia did? Built one of the great companies in America and bought the team. So that's a good story to dive into, and I hope those get told more. But even outside of that, so that's a big win. There are these minor wins left and right. I've got who I'll call friends and ex-clients and clients and colleagues that are former college athletes that didn't make it big, that are running incredible businesses with teammates and clients that love them. So encourage everyone to check out the Matt Ishbia story. I've always been encouraged by it. I sent him a copy of my book. We'll see if I get a reply here.
There you go. So athletes to entrepreneurship, is that what you called it? Is that the process of an athlete buying into, or athletes through acquisition, I think is what you called it. Sorry.
Entrepreneurship through acquisition. Yeah.
Okay. I knew I was going to get that wrong. Yeah. Entrepreneurship through acquisition. So makes a lot of sense, right? An already established business has got a track record that this athlete can insert him or herself into. There's already a certain amount of discipline, some processes in place. What are the challenges for this person in forming their new identity in this new business? It's far from the sports world. I mean, do they have a lot of trouble finding these businesses that really fit for them? Or, and probably a lot of that goes back to your parts of your book, which I have not read yet, about mindset. It's probably about opening yourself up to seeing, possibilities. And, so share a little of your thoughts on this.
The market is wide and vast, and there's a lot of neat ways in our great country of America that people make money. And there's a lot of different ways to acquire something in a niche that not only you might have a little passion for, but also maybe a synergy based on your history and your network to get there. So the most difficult thing for a former athlete is to transition the mindset. So I talked about all that untapped potential, right? And I talked about a little bit of some of the neuroscience behind athletes and the way they can see the game, the resiliency, the teamwork, the metacognition, all this great stuff. Now let's just understand the game of business. Let's translate that in the mind. And so worked with a great Harvard psychologist, and we put together, outside of the book, we have a great course on this. And entrepreneurship through acquisition is something that's one of the hottest trends in business schools in America. And my play on this, and my entire thesis, and all my investors and my network, and what we're trying to put out there is, you didn't have to go to Harvard or Stanford to acquire one of these businesses and operate them. And I found this time and time again as I'm sitting in between all these deals and working, with these great entrepreneurs, is there's these other skills that are developed that really drive business success. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. So for an athlete, they've got to transition the mind. And then through the book, we teach them this process of positioning themselves and how to acquire a company. And, I think the biggest hesitation that I get from folks is, well, I don't have the money. I don't have the money. It's, like I said, it's one of the hottest trends in America, and investors are looking for great folks to do this with. So,
doesn't always take a lot of money, probably to buy some businesses, right? But the notion is that athletes made a lot of money, and or they're making a lot of money. Even college players today, I think, are making money. So, like, how do you deal with that objection? They don't have the money.
If they go through read my book and go through my course. So my course is successcoach.com. If they pass my tests, we'll get them the money. It's a model that has been the highest performing alternative asset for investors for a little over 40 years. So investors love it, right? And we fund it's investing in humans,
right?
And as you know, in these family-owned businesses and small businesses, I've done a lot of deals. Done a ton of deals. You better sell your business. If your kids aren't taken, or someone you know is not taking over, you better sell it to someone you trust and has a good value system, right? That's your legacy, and it's going to take on forever. So there's a million ways to strike up deal terms. We could figure out the financials. Investors are going to pay what they're going to pay. It's how you skin the cat and how you do it. But you better sell it to someone you trust. And also, athletes have displayed that. So if I'm selling my business and Jonathan, you're a former athlete, and I'm in LA, and you're a UCLA or USC athlete, and you come out to me, and I can look you up and say, wow, actually, look at it. Jonathan was a walk-on, earned a scholarship. Holy cow, he's been doing all. I know everything about Jonathan. Wow, there's his family. I really like this guy. Look at all that, and you played for Pete Carroll, and Coach Carroll says you're a great guy. Like, holy cow. So you better transition that business, because at the end of the day, if you sell purely on money, you're not going to be fulfilled. The softest pillow is a clean conscience, right? And so you better transition your business to someone that can run with your legacy. And we talk a lot about that in the book for these athletes, and how do you do that, and things like that.
So Jay, tell us about successcoach.com. What does the course look like? How long is it? Is it remote learning? Is it through the web? How much is personal touch versus high tech? And also, what's the outcome? Because it sounds like if they pass the course, you're going to help them get financing. So tell us about the whole course.
Absolutely. So go to successcoach.com. We built 15 modules on the mindset, and that's led by a Harvard psychologist. We use an empirically backed study to gauge your entrepreneurial mindset. And this is, like I said, empirically backed. So we can look at the 14 mechanisms that make a great entrepreneur. And through that course, Geraldine, the Harvard psychologist, takes these folks through increasing each one of those. So how do I translate in athletic terms? How do I translate what we know you developed in athletics to these 14 mechanisms to really think and act like a CEO of a small company? And once you go through that, so now we know everything you think and where you start and where you finish. And this is all 100% remote, online. It's all built out and available with resources as well. And then we take them through this course, and I take them through Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition. And what that is understanding, the field of play. Look at all these industries out there. Look at the market, right? It's like farmland in America, and we just got to find one plot of land to stick your corn. So that comes down to your history and your synergies. You can't just, or I don't recommend, if you have no history in software or any idea, or your family's never run a software company or a friend, to go buy a software company, right? But maybe your father or mother, had a big services company, like whatever that may be, and you have some sort of synergy there. So we take them through this course and put them through these high level mini MBAs, how to assess a company, look at a company, a 10-minute yes or no on this would be a good company to buy or not that I can operate, and how to value that company. And this all isn't rocket science. Again, I go back to soft skills. I can't teach the soft skills. I can't. I can teach you these technical skills. I've been doing it for almost 20 years, and I've seen a lot of these entrepreneurs do it. So got a lot of great resources in there. And what these folks, the outcome is these folks come out with the mindset profile and a thesis on what they want to buy. What's their dream? And we work with my investors, and they're out there, and we've got a lot of businesses that come through my firm, and they can also source their own. We teach them how to do that. And then we just structure it all together, and we partner with my team, and we get them funded and work with our investors to put them in positions to succeed and give them skin in the game. And that's one of the things I found as one of those athletes that was super competitive, driven, and just believed that, my future is so bright. I wanted skin in the game. And so for me, that was one of the things with the corporate world that didn't work out. But you give me skin in the game, and hey, I'm going to work my butt off. I'm up all night. I'm going to keep fighting. I'm resilient as can be, right? But I need a coach. And we always need a coach. And so we're the coach, and we surround these folks when they are able to acquire these companies. We surround them with a board, an operational advisor, which is a seasoned entrepreneur, and a peak performance mindset coach. I'm huge on mindset, which Jerry and her team coordinates there. And she's worked with some of the biggest and best in the world. So I'm quite confident there. Operate these teams, and we'll teach them the technical skills, but it's a mini MBA course where we blended the mindset and entrepreneurship through acquisition. Again, like I said, business schools all of a sudden are starting to pick it up across the country. But what I'm going to say is you don't need to spend $100,000, $200,000 if you want to go acquire a company. I've been in those classrooms. This is a great route. So.
I think what you've got here is exciting, it's fun, it's fresh, it's brilliant, and has scalability, especially if you could get the NCAA or the NBA or the NFL or, sports organizations to get behind the endorsement of this. That endorsement would play out really well with their I don't know what you call the alumnus of sports teams, but those who have retired from it, it's something to give back to them. These guys are sort of still pining for getting on the field, and maybe they're, some of them never watch another football or basketball or baseball game in their life again, but some of them are, watching from the sidelines, and they're wanting to go back maybe to the way things used to be, and they can't. Their body can't do it.
Yeah.
I could see this being really big for you, and I'm really excited for you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. All positive energy, but the reach and the number of lives we can affect and help people achieve their dreams in life. That's how I'll gauge my success in life. I think you hit on that. One of my favorite endorsements is DeMaurice Smith. He just retired as the NFLPA executive director. He was there for 20 plus years, led them through some amazing times, and really has a great name in the NFL community. And he endorsed the book, and I was quite blown away with his endorsement. And you're right. I think these professional leagues and these folks that did make it big. Look, I didn't make it big, but I know I played with some folks that made it big, and I know they would believe in me and they would back me. I know they would, right? And so I would love nothing more to change this group of people that believe in this to the folks that made it big and I say, look, what about your college teammate that didn't make it big? Do you believe in he or she? Right? Here's their mindset profile. Here's their thesis they want to buy. Here's all the financials running through your family office. I've done that, guys. I went to school with these folks. I've done all these pro formas and LBOs, all this fun stuff. The financials work out. But do you believe? Right? And I think it's, purpose-led investing. So we can help these folks, achieve success and be great again.
Yeah. And there's no reason that they couldn't understand the 10 elements today as an athlete in your mindset mastery elements for success, because that stuff is transferable to whatever they do in their life. So it sounds like you're making it really big now. Maybe you didn't make it onto the pros, or Division I, getting there didn't happen as quickly, or or the way that you wanted. But I think this is a great testament. This book, After the Game, Bridging the Gap from Winning Athlete to Thriving Entrepreneur, is going to be really successful. And look at you. You're practically a stone's throw from the beach there in the Virgin Islands, enjoying life. And, that's success right there. So,
hey, Jonathan, just getting this opportunity with you is success. And I count my blessings every day, and I value every moment on this earth. So I appreciate you taking the time and all these great words for me. It means a lot. And I hope at the end of the day, we can just help some other folks out there, achieve whatever they want, on this earth and get them there. So I appreciate you spreading this message.
Awesome. Well, it looks like the book's received endorsements from leaders in various industries, including sports and business. And we all know, as I say in the beginning of my podcast, what got us here isn't going to get us there. And just like the concept of a playbook, which really was borrowed from sports, most specifically, in my mind, from football, because football is filled with playbooks, right? You got the defensive playbooks, probably the offensive playbooks, the overall playbooks, the strategy. You've got the daily huddle in business is like the huddle before every single play. They come into the game with a strategy. It changes maybe at halftime. Their guys are constantly going to the sidelines, talking to the coordinators to help them to drive for a better outcome in the game. And I think that people need a life after, whether you're a next generation leader in a family business who needs to disrupt the status quo because what got you here isn't going to get you there, and you need a new mentor and a new playbook. I think this is the ticket. Very excited for you, Jay. Happy to have you on the show. Awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it, Jonathan. This was fun. Thank you.
All right, folks, you know the drill. If you got some value from this, please share this with others. If you want to learn more about Jay Dixon, go to successcoach.com. You can pick up a copy of his book, I think, there, or I'm sure on Amazon. Yeah. Also, tell others about the show and give us a great rating on your listening podcast application of choice. And stay tuned for future episodes of the Disruptive Successor Show. This podcast is sponsored by myself, Jonathan Goldhill, and my company, the Goldhill Group, where we provide coaching for growing companies. I'm Jonathan Goldhill, and my purpose is simple: to guide entrepreneurial leaders in family businesses towards more freedom and fulfillment. I want entrepreneurs to get clarity around the changes that will make them and their businesses more successful so they can experience the same freedom I've enjoyed in my life. Our proven practices challenge business owners to think differently about their business and how they're running it, and quite literally become game changers in our clients' companies. Learn more at thegoldhillgroup.com website, where you can schedule your free strategy session. Thank you for joining us on the Disruptive Successor Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, review, and share with a friend who would benefit from the message. If you're interested in picking up a copy of my book, Disruptive Successor, go to disruptivesuccessor.com.